This is NDTV and you're watching NDTV Prime in association with Micromax. Nothing like anything.
Hello and welcome to Crossfire. The separation between church and state is an eternal debate and a complex one that too. One that has many levels and many nuances and keeps the argument sort of just keeps building on itself with time going by. All of us or most of us growing up in India remember the time when our teacher used to tell us to join our hands, close our eyes, and we grudgingly yet unquestioningly complied with that. Today on the show we're going back to those days and asking whether religious prayer in schools should be banned. To join us in this discussion, to my left is Sonali Chaudhary, who believes that yes, it should be banned, and Aditya to my right, who believes otherwise. Sonali, we'll start with you. You have 1 minute on the clock. Why do you believe that religious prayer should be banned in schools?
Okay, I would like to begin with what I define a school as and how it is distinct from any other sphere of life. For a child, a learning space comes from his family, comes from the community which he lives in, and from the school. And here the school is particularly distinctive because it provides one to critically analyze the kind of social structures you live in. And in that kind of environment, it is imperative to build a kind of objective learning. And I believe that keeping religion separately from schools will enable students to analyze the kind of social structures they live in. And let's also understand that schools in essence have the primary motive of teaching students how to undertake logical and scientific thought into their everyday lives. And to that extent, I believe that religious prayers are not exactly in the purview of rational and scientific thought. And I think these two are my fundamental constructives here. Moving on, I also believe that there are certain religious minority schools, and that if parents choose their children to pursue education that is imbibed with religious thought and scriptures, then they can very well send their children to madrasas or Christian convent schools. But I believe that public and private schools that attract students from across a diverse set of religions should not inherently allow religious prayers to be conducted in school by virtue of allowing individuals to exercise their own freedom of choice. And I believe that these constitutional rights are fundamental to be upheld even within schools, and therefore forcing kids to sit in a religious prayer that may or may not be what they are learning at home is going to cause the child to be conflicted in some space.
Okay, Sonali, your time's up. You can finish your point in a bit. Aditya, why do you believe that religious prayer is okay? We can have it in schools.
Actually, one thing even I agree with is, school is a place where you have a holistic learning. You learn a lot of things. And the thing that most schools do is they do give an objective learning, which even Sonali pointed out. But a much more important thing is a subjective learning, what goes within ourselves. Now, schools are definitely telling us what is there out there in the world, what do we manipulate out there, but then what about the things which are within us? Now, that is the major thing where religion comes into the picture. Now, if we talk about people being coerced into it, that is definitely wrong. But then if we observe in most schools, religious prayers are very little about praising a god or celebrating the idea of a god, but it's mostly of very subtle philosophical, psychological, and even metaphysical ideas, which probably the children don't exactly know what it means then, but down the line it creates a lot of impact on the child's mind. And we can even see that in most of the prayers. Like for instance, I've been in a lot of schools, I've even been abroad, I've been in the UAE, I've studied there. And in the UAE, even I was made to decide they are prayers, but then that never really was a problem. Those who wanted to, they could. Those who didn't want to, they always had an option of not wanting.
You have the choice, you have the freedom of choice.
You have the choice.
Okay. What are your views on what Sonali said, that there should be a difference between public and private schools? Some schools it's okay to have prayer, but some schools it's not. What are your views on that?
I would actually say that all schools, being public or private, they should definitely keep a channel open for prayer.
Okay.
Because a very important thing about prayer is, maybe you might not really be interested in whatever the philosophy or psychology behind a prayer, but the point is it exposes at least 2 or 3 among the entire cohort of students of what the prayer is, and maybe they are really interested. For instance, when we teach art, why do we teach art to all children? Why do we teach singing to all children? We do that in spite of knowing that they're not exactly going to be singers or artists, because those who are interested, they have a path. They're not at zero. They can move ahead. Same thing about prayer. If I'm interested in philosophy, maybe down the line, I can actually carry ahead. So I don't start at zero.
Okay. So Ali, I understand Aditya's point, because the school that I was in as well, you know, our prayer had, you know, the meaning behind it was that, you know, God has many names, but there's one God. And that's what he believes, that, you know, there's a different underlining to a prayer that you have that doesn't really talk of how great a certain God is, but it talks about some certain philosophies that all religions espouse, if that's your point.
I mean, if I could actually be a little more specific with my point, even that goes on to a very small extent. In most of the prayers, at least in India, if you translate them to English, the thing would, the kind of translations you would get is, may there be peace for all, may there be nourishment for all, and you end up with the shanti, 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 which is peace, peace, peace. Let there be happiness around. So these also do not specify on God. These talk about people at large. So I believe that it is something that everyone needs to imbibe. It's more of moral. It's about morals that a child is imbibing.
It's more of a moral and spiritual sort of learnings that
not exactly religious. It's more of spiritual.
Spiritual. Sonali, your views on that?
Thank you for that. Though I do believe that prayers give us an insight into the moral and ethical value sets that the society preaches, let's understand that the medium to teach kids about moral and ethical values should not be prayers, should not be religious prayers, because it's a highly politicized sphere. And the entire point of education is to protect children from that entire sphere and environment which is so highly politicized and which has seen such an extent of violence and intolerance, right? So I believe that there is a method and a pedagogy to teach children about moral and ethical values, about philosophy, that does not employ the medium of religious prayers. For instance, you can encourage tolerance by teaching kids to share, by teaching kids to, for instance, give respect to a disabled student. So there are a number of ways which are less politicized, which are less fraught with such diverse and polarized opinions that are anyway a burden for the child, to teach him about moral and philosophical values.
Okay, valid point. So she's saying that while she understands that you have all the spiritual underlinings of it, prayer is prayer, and you know, praying to God or discussing God in that sort of an environment is something that she stands firmly against.
Right. But if you observe in most schools, there's never anything about God in itself, the aspect. You can take any prayer which we go, and to make it a little more elaborate, if you don't mind, at least in India, the traditional system, if I can just delve a little into the religious past of India, or more of a cultural past of India, we can see that the Indian culture can be divided into three major spheres. The first, we had a Vedic civilization. It slowly evolved to become an Upanishadic civilization. Now we have more of a Bhakti civilization. Most of the prayers we do are from the Upanishadic context. And there's very few slokas we take from the Vedic. Now Vedic is something which talks about God, it talks about manipulating the universe. So maybe we might not exactly go into Vedic, but every Upanishadic statement is a philosophical statement. And it is pretty much required. Now when you say we should encourage children to give charity, perfect, we should. We even do that. Right now we even go for awareness campaigns, and we tell everyone, please dump the garbage in the bin. Please come and donate some money. But not many people do that. To spark that, in my view, religion comes into the picture. And yes, I do agree there has been a politicization of religion, but that is no reason to remove religion in itself. Maybe we should learn and understand what religion is more and bring it out of politics back to its glory.
Okay, what are your views on, you know, you might have prayer in school, but you know, Sonali might argue or others might argue that it doesn't really drive home the point to students, especially when they're in school. You know, you don't know what you're praying about. What if that prayer is accompanied by a certain class where, you know, diversity amongst gods and all the gods in India are sort of discussed? It can be a spiritual class, but it can also be a sort of a religious class. Would that be something you're in favor of?
No, I wouldn't be in favor of that, because that I would feel is actually unconstitutional, because even the constitution says you can't really start preaching in classes, telling about religions, even if it's optional. You can't really do that.
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to check.
I wouldn't really support that. But what I would support is, yes, I even agree this, that children don't really know what is being said. We don't know what the meaning is. So maybe there could be a session, if there's a moral science, maybe you can actually tell them the meaning of that. Let it not be a compulsory, and mostly if it's not compulsory, children won't really turn up. But the thing is, if at least they have the thing in their mind, maybe not then, subconsciously if it's ingrained, down the line, maybe 20 years, 10 years down the line, they will get into it. And maybe it's a choice that they want to make. So let us not close their choices, let us keep it open.
If I could just
Yeah,
cut in
sure.
there? So I see that Aditya is stressing a lot about shlokas, but let's understand if I belong to a different religion and at home I practice something, a different set of cultures and ritualistic practices entirely, and at school I'm subject to an entirely different set of religious practices. Do you not think that that conflict will at some point burden my yet growing mind to be able to manage both spheres of religion in one space?
While I do agree what you say, now the thing is, basically, can you just repeat your point again?
I think it's a bit of like what's happening in school
is entirely different from what could be my
what
learning
they're doing at home,
of
what they're
religion
doing.
from home
Yeah.
and community. And how do I deal
Perfect,
with that
perfect.
clash?
I think the question is sort of who gives the school the responsibility or the onus for any sort of prayer? Why should it be happening in a school setting is the question.
No, addressing the question that when you say that a person has a different kind of a cultural or religious values, and when they are going to a school, there's another cultural religious values. Over here, in most of the assemblies, prayers are generally done mostly in the morning at assemblies, where assembly is mandatory. There is an attendance, you will be expected to be there. If you're not there, you will be questioned. For instance, there's even national anthem which comes at the ending, which brings in a little bit of patriotism. But while attendance is compulsory, which brings in discipline, reciting the prayer and singing of the national anthem has never really been compulsory. There has been one instance in Kerala that I've just gone across, which says that some child did not really sing out the national anthem, for which they were suspended from the school, but then the courts did not accept it. We have a constitution which says no, that is not acceptable. So there's an entire system to help them from awkward situations, and it doesn't really affect them. We know many children, we don't find much of a problem from children having prayers in assemblies. The problem starts when the discussions goes into the classes, which is what we definitely could avoid maybe if...
Do you feel that prayer sort of stems that sort of discussion?
If I
Not really, yeah.
cut in,
Yeah.
what you're envisioning is a very fine balance between allowing religious prayers but not letting it infiltrate the classroom environment. I think that kind of fine balance is extremely difficult to tiptoe. So if you do allow religious prayers, it's not that it's going to remain confined in your assembly halls. That discourse will carry on into classroom discussions as well. So that false barrier that you're trying to erect will eventually fall, and we will see a penetration of religious thought in education, which I don't agree with, because I believe that education to a large extent for children is to inculcate a critical analysis of the kind of society we live in, and for that we need a separation from everyday life, and therefore it constitutes an entirely different institution away from home and the community.
I think we've sort of slightly deviated when we're talking about religious education. Let's sort of just stick to it in terms of prayer. I think a point that Aditya brought up was also the freedom of choice, you know. I mean, that's a great thing about the country, that we have the freedom of choice to practice our own religion. We might not be free in some circumstances from the consequence of our choice, but do you think that it's feasible to make religious prayer voluntary in schools like it is? You don't have to say the religious prayer, but since we have the freedom of choice to practice our religion, you might have a Hindu prayer or a Hindu shloka going on, but is it all right with you if students choose that this is a prayer that I just won't speak about, or do you feel that that's incorrect?
I think to a large extent we could encourage students to take up their prayers in the right environment, which is at home, and in the religious institutions that are already set up for this purpose, which is in the temple or which is in their church, etc. And I believe that the school has to maintain a distinct sphere and has to maintain a barrier between itself and religious institutions, because it's trying to inculcate the children to build a critical thinking of and analyze the way society functions, the way religion impacts everyday life. So for instance, you could have,
like how you were saying earlier, scientific, logical, or rational sort of
and not
understanding.
just that, we also understand from Aditya's conversation that a lot of children don't really understand the kind of shlokas that they're speaking. So isn't it better for us to encourage this kind of shloka chanting at a stage when they are more capable of understanding and imbibing philosophy? And I don't think then schools are then a particularly ripe environment for them to even learn from the shlokas that they're chanting, and it becomes a very repetitive activity for them that might even sort of at some level take away from original thought.
Aditya, so schools are there to educate, that's a sphere you should not, you know, interfere with. What is your response to that? The religion can be very invasive even if it's in the form of prayer in school.
What I would like to clarify over here, there's a problem especially in India. The problem is in India, even in my opinion, like in many other opinions, we have more of a composite culture. Now when we talk about temples, when we talk about prayers should be confined to temples, we should make it very clear that people in temples do more of a ritualistic prayers. Now, even in most cultures, or not most cultures, every single culture, there are two aspects of religion. One is called philosophy, and there is called ritual. Ritual is what most people physically do in the temples. Philosophy is something which is subjective, something which happens within. That is why when we go to the school and then we say ki sarve jana sukhino bhavantu, may everyone be prosperous. Those are the general things that people say. Asato ma sadgamaya, may falsity become reality. So these are all philosophical, metaphysical things. So I don't really think these are things people would ideally say in a temple. In a temple, they'll go for rituals. When they come back to the school, they would do that. Now, there was one more question you posed. The second point, if you can just elaborate on that.
Whether children...
The age.
Yeah,
the age
whether
part.
children are at that stage of time mature enough to understand the philosophical teachings from...
Exactly.
Especially if
I
it's
do
not
agree.
accompanied by a class.
I do agree that they cannot understand. But there's another thing which has been observed even scientifically, which I believe even Einstein attested, I'm not sure how much, but they say that a human being's prejudices, the common sense as they call it, is formed by the age of 18. After which it's mostly mere additions, subtractions, until a major shock comes and kind of changes your entire perspective about a certain issue. Now what happens if I go after the age of 18? Now if I go to a college where a person has made up his mind about religion or even about science or anything, if I go and tell them something which is kind of differing from their view, they cannot accept it. There will be a resistance because their prejudice is formed. Now when it comes to schools, you observe kids don't really resist much. They have desires, yes, they want this, they want that, but then resistance does not come when you ask them to do things, so they are receptive. But down the line, if they actually feel that maybe this is not right for me, they themselves reject it automatically. If they feel it is right for me, they will stick to it.
Okay, valid point. Sonali, sort of just sum up your argument. We're running out of time.
Yeah, in response to that last point, because I think it's really important, when we talk about kids being extremely receptive and don't resist much, I think that is exactly the fear we have. That by encouraging a particular kind of religion or a particular kind of religious practice, we impose on them our perception of religion. And I believe then the school administration has an undue influence over the minds of children in deciding what kind of religious thoughts they inculcate in them. So I believe that the fact that kids are so moldable at that point of time
Makes more of a case to not have.
makes more of a case to not have religious prayers.
Do you agree with her slightly or not really?
Not really.
Sum up your argument for us.
Yeah, to sum up my argument, the basic idea that we are discussing right now is, should religion be banned? My opinion is, in any democracy.
Well, it's not so much should religion be banned.
Sorry, should
should prayers in
should prayers in religious prayers in schools be banned? Now, my basic argument is it should not really be banned, because in any democratic system we should be open for all kinds of choices and people should be willing to take whatever they want to take. And India is definitely a secular country. So we definitely do accept religion, but we don't want to enforce religion. So let children choose, let us not enforce it onto them. Thank you.
Okay, and secularism is also sort of, it's about neutrality. It's not so much about extremes in terms of banning and allowing.
Exactly. Yeah.
That sort of brings an end to the debate. Thank you, Sonali. Thank you, Aditya. This is a debate that's not going to end anytime soon. And the debate isn't sort of between organized religion and atheism. It's about the sort of environment and learnings and education that we're giving the future generation. We're going to slip into a short break, but don't go away. We have lots more on the other side.